chair a forum officially. I don't think there is anybody with the powers to do that other than the chief guest. So our chief guest is also a very good friend of ours and mine, the chairman of KETSA, together with the board, the distinguished delegates of KETSA, the CEOs of the forum, the CEO of KETSA as well, together with your team. I'm Jabo. Now today I don't have the home ground confidence, because ordinarily we meet in Mombasa. So when we meet in Nairobi, those that we met earlier was claiming that even in Nairobi is still home. But I believe there are people who say that in a more confident way. So I am very happy to be with you this morning as you think through where you want to take the movement. And allow me to borrow from what Director Vincent has said, that now you have occupied space in the structure of the cooperative movement. And you have even continued to align with the movement if you are to refer to the former structure. And that is why last year we embarked on legislation of SACCO. So the whole idea was to be now in the mainframe of the mainstream cooperative movement. And to answer the many questions that were being raised, who is KETSA? And do we have an opportunity even to come in and provide supervision and guidance? I would be surprised that if you are gaining significance in the industry, that you're also not confronting challenges. I would be surprised. I would be surprised to hear that as you gain significance, occupy space, that you're not disrupting. Now, those of us who come from Mombasa and near Mombasa, we know the owner of Baburi Cement. He had designated a place within Mombasa, and I have seen my chairman, where people used to go and feed. Yeah, Mombasa Cement. These gentlemen attend. And I can imagine the people who are beneficiaries of that gentleman are mourning to date. You made me remember a book written by a gentleman called Robin Sharma, where he asked, who would cry when you die? It's a very profound, because it's a moment of reflection. We have a very good opportunity as people with significant positions in the movement to create an impact. In fact, you possibly don't need to be able to look for what could be this one thing that you present and say, because of this that I did, I need another chance. Serving our members diligently is a very good reference point. It is persuasive enough to say, look at the households that benefit from what I do. And as we reflect, as we think through our discussions, it will be important to take that honor and responsibility with the seriousness that it deserves. Now, I was seated next to one of the directors of KETSA, David Kaburu, and he said, the chief guest has spoken to the fundamentals. It's very interesting, because before you came in, because I didn't even know you speak to these things. He was telling me that he'll be going to the Super Savers Forum. And I was speaking to him in Greek, now trying to translate, is that those are the people you look, the way you look at milk when it is boiling. And that is a borrowed phrase from Nyoro. But there's a way in which you look at milk, isn't it? So that is how you look at those top savers, and you have brought it very well, because they mean something to the business, and you need to make them feel comfortable. So he said you have actually given him a speech that now he can contribute when it gets bad. I know from time to time, I could find myself representing part of the discussion. Now, extending the theme of risk management, which our chief guest has spoken, and the topic of discussion that again looks more or less like a theme, building leaders for resilience, growth, and sustainability. I look at this discussion very interesting, and I will sometimes behave like an academician, break it into the three elements that have come up. One is building resilience within our institutions. I will be asking simple questions like, if you are shaken today, would you withstand? And I love the question you brought, Director Vincent, of stress test. And you have operation, you have put it in very clear terms how you do it. Because you want to see how resilient are you as an institution. So we're speaking to what exactly does it mean? Now we have discovered that growth is created. And lastly, how do you create institutions that are for longevity? I don't know the cumulative years that our institutions have lived, but I will just do a survey. How many of us here whose institutions have been around for more than 50 years? Oh, wow. Yeah. So you can see, we are starting to hit the 50th anniversary, the Jubilee year. And that is very, very important because we have demonstrated then that these institutions are sustainable. Now, we argue that you build leaders because these are the people who have ability to build resilience, grow the institution, and make them sustainable. We put to rest the question, are leaders born or made? And we take an affront to the fact that leaders can be built, they can be made better. And that is the path I take. Now, all of us who are here, you have a stake in the game. Because the reason you are here, I'll avoid market analysis that I normally use. But I get very excited when I look at how the insiders invest. And now take a different path to speak about the skin in the game. How much could you lose if your institution was to suffer? Now, we start that discussion because sometimes you look at people treating the institutions like they have nothing to lose. I don't know who has been carried by a matatu driver who looks like he's driving remotely. So how much stake do we have in our institution? And how does that increase our consciousness about the decisions that we make? To put it differently is to ask, if the institution has 13 billion and all that money is yours, would you make the decisions you make? Now, how many of your family members have trusted you and they have brought their money in the institution that you decide? How many of your own, in fact now the nuclear family, have believed in what you drive, the skin in the game? The more the insiders increase their stake in the business, the more believable it becomes. Number two, the top echelon theory that argues institutions become like the people. I could borrow from the Bible, Bishop, if you are around me. It is the story, is it in the book of Matthew that says that you shall know them by their, I don't know whether my good friend, Director Dio, it is anywhere in the brand.
I'm a very keen reader of the Bible.
Oh, very good.
I know most of those stories.
Very nice. You will know them by their fruits. What simply means is that we don't possibly even need to listen to the many stories. We just need to look at the institution and we will understand what is your leadership. Over time, organizations become like the people. More importantly, and I know you can identify with this, is that part of your legacy, how you will remember, is how you make these institutions look like. We are in a very interesting time when this statement has more meaning than any other time. True? And especially when you look at our very own institution. And I know you're getting sentiments, people making different comments. But that is possibly how the history will be written. That it was during this season that we experienced these challenges. Now, allow me to speak to the why. Why building leaders is critical, and especially at this particular time. The military, the American military, coined this term called VUCA. And I know now we have used it, we have reused it, we have used it until now it has gained meaning in our own context. And he said we operate in an environment that is very volatile, very volatile. It is volatile because it changes very fast. Now, when an environment is changing very fast, you need people who can respond, who are adaptive, people who can, make decisions without enough information. So they say the environment is also uncertain. Not all the variables are present. The environment is becoming very complex. Now, I was listening to an article in the morning. It is somebody who was speaking about how things change. A lady wakes up in the morning, and when she gets to her workplace, what she finds is a termination letter. And she's told you have lost your job. Then, of course, in a very depressed way, she tries to find out, to call her friends to comfort her. She discovers that her friends are also crying because the organizations have also replaced, have laid them off. So they decided to take a scan as to how comes, what a coincidence is this, that we are being replaced. And they discover that they have been replaced. They are no longer needed in their workplace. Something called artificial intelligence has replaced them. Now, it is a coincidence that most of the friends were working in institutions where artificial intelligence brought that disruption. A very complex environment, and an environment that is ambiguous. So you are building leaders so that they can operate in an environment that is no longer very linear, that decision A does not necessarily lead to a certain outcome. And I have done some, trying to decompose what each and every aspect means. What happens in a volatile environment is the volume of change, the velocity of change is so huge. And it could be in different ways, sporadic government regulations. We could be lucky that we are not getting too many of them. We have discussed the cooperative bill for how many years? Quite a number of years, isn't it? I know there will be other incremental changes that keep coming. I know we have been having even other regulations that affect our business, including the taxation. But even now, we are still speaking to changes even in that copy that we do not see whether, we don't fully appreciate whether we informed it or it has been sneaked in. And these are some of the things that you find in a volatile environment. What is one of the strategies to operate in such an environment? We are saying one is build slack. I don't know who can give us the meaning of the term slack in this context. Build slack. Build slack. Now slack simply means build extra capacity. If I was to speak the language of George, I'll say build redundancy in your system. Ensure that you have more than you can use. In this case, when I think about building slack in the leadership, is even creating bigger capacity in the leadership than the business that they are handling today. So that should there be even a change in that context, you will still be able to have people who can respond. When the environment becomes more volatile, you have slack, people with more skills, people with better knowledge of how to respond to unfamiliar areas. But more also important is building the foundation. Now, the director Vincent has really spoken to. How do you ensure that you have even enough cash, you have enough liquidity to respond in the event as a significant shift of your business happens? In the event of uncertainty, we say what happens is that there is lack of predictability. You can see the role of leadership. So the clear strategy is build leadership that has agility, nimbleness, ability to think, to be fluid, ability to adapt and change very fast. And of course, in a very complex business environment, again, the role of leadership still comes in. Variables keep on changing. You need people who can appreciate what is it that we need now to compete. What new knowledge do we need to move forward? And then, of course, in cases of ambiguity. So I have spoken to them why we need to build leaders for resilience, growth, and sustainability. I want you to think about COVID-19 and how many times we keep mentioning it, referring to it, even today. How many years back? COVID-19 had 2020? 2022. From 2019? Was it 2021? Now, you are aware that there are institutions that have not recovered. I don't know whether even when you look at the portfolio, maybe even this portfolio we are being told here of 16.7% in the banking sector. Do you think there is part of it that can be attributed to the COVID-19? A very, very volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous environment. So let's think through lessons. Maybe just find out from your neighbor whether he has a clear understanding of the term lessons. What does it mean? Lessons. Find out from your neighbor. This is also an opportunity to change your neighbor. Discover they are missing out on important things. Resilience. Building resilience. So, who has an answer from a neighbor that he or she feels this looks like it, I can share? So, what is your neighbor telling you? And by the way, I agree. Meaning, there are many things that want to push you, isn't it? So you say, I'm not a pushover. So that is the meaning, resilience. Okay, I like it. You know, every day, there is somebody who wants to eat into your market. That's a fact, isn't it? So, lazima ukae. Okay, right? Another way of looking at resilience Yes, sorry?
Able to withstand storms.
Able to withstand storms. And they say, you are either coming from a storm in one or getting into another, into one. That looks like the cycle. We normally say life is cyclical, and you can't run away from those facts. And this is at a personal level and also as an organization. By the way, I was to ask you, are we in a storm of any kind? When we are here? Are we in a storm of any kind? Okay. I know we'll have a conversation around that tomorrow. And we'll be asking how resilient are we, both as institutions and also as individuals. And we are appreciating this one day, that resilience can be built. You can build resilient institutions. If it is at personal level, you can build it. But for organizations, there are practical things you can do to create a resilient institution. I want to put this in form of a question. If you are to make losses for the next 5 years, if you are to make losses for the next 5 years, would you write them off from your intentions? Now that is a conversation that you need to be holding, even in your boardrooms. Because that would mean that you are deliberately creating slack, you are deliberately creating a resilient institution. That even if you are not to pay interest on deposit and dividend, but at least you'll be able to absorb them without affecting the members' deposit. It is a way of building resilience within an institution. Borrowing from the town to be able to withstand storm. That is why I brought this tree here. Now, if I was to demonstrate how to have used a football or whatever ball, then you hit it on the ground, it is able to bounce back. It means it has built resilient, it has been made to withstand shocks and shakes. And you think about what some organizations did. And one of the organizations that is highly cited as having built resilience is this company called Wells Fargo. And what Wells Fargo did, when the industry was really shaken, it concentrated on building people. In fact, it trained more than any other time. Remember, I am trying to pull the discussion around building leaders for resilience, growth, and sustainability. And many banks, what they did, they started the harvesting approach, right? So we are not going to invest anything more on the people. In fact, many times when institutions are experiencing difficulties, one of the things that many institutions cut is the training budget. Have you seen that? And they say we are not going to train anymore. It may surprise you that that is what you need more at that particular time. So the contrast bank that did the opposite was called the Wells of America, the Wells Bank of America. And they really struggled. It is said when the storm was over, many of the employees of Wells Fargo are the ones who went to rescue the Wells. Of Wells Fargo are the ones who went to rescue the American bank. Until they had now started calling themselves the Fargos of Wells Fargo. So building resilience in the people is a strategy you can adopt even to survive difficult times. And I want you to see this quote from Wells Fargo. If you can inject endlessly the right people directly into the veins of your Saccos, you can more easily adopt to a changing world. Tomorrow when we'll be looking at corporate governance, we'll be looking at how institutions fail to adopt this, and they promote what we consider to be mediocrity. and the ultimate cost that it creates for its institution. Building leaders for lessons. Now, growth. Maybe one of these days, and I know Mwalimu Kibiji would look at this, is an analysis of how our institutions have been growing. The other day, I was invited to talk to one of the Saccos, and I looked at their growth from 2019. And in the year 2019, they were a number higher than two of the societies represented here. One of the societies is Mentor and Imarika. 2019, 2020, 2021. And when it came to 2023, they lost ground to the two institutions. Growth is a focus. You are either growing at the industry standards, you are growing at standards below the industry. And that is something that you may want to analyze to see how are you growing. Do you know what is the industry average growth? Are you performing above it? Are you performing below it? What is the nexus between the leadership, the leader's ability to outwit competition and the growth rate? It will surprise you that there is a very close relationship. So you grow leaders so that they can grow the business. Now, a gentleman called Jim Collins wrote a very good book. It's called Create by Choice. He said, if you see an organization growing, they have made a decision to grow. So we agree that growth is a decision. And he said there are three qualities you will find in the leadership or in the leaders that grow an institution. He said number one, discipline, hunting discipline. How does it manifest? Part of it is understanding what is it that we are good at and sticking with it. Saying there are very many things that we can do. Remember this time there was a wave when every time you go to the members' forums, they would ask you, what else can we do other than lending money? I don't know whether by then those conversations are on. And then they start giving you ideas. They tell you you can buy land. Remember those days? You can build houses, you can put up this. They are thinking that there is a better way to grow other than lending money. But you see a characteristic in the leadership of institutions designed for growth. Growth by choice is they have decided what is it they will do. A gentleman called Jack Webb, who used to be a CEO of a company called GE, he admitted one of the things that they had decided to do is to identify the number one and the number two things that they can excel in. That is where they will stick. They had also understood what is it that they cannot do. Deciding what you cannot do is as important also as knowing what you can do. Number two, they have what we call productive paranoia. I don't know what is the meaning of the term paranoia. In the social context, I hear people saying that men are paranoid. Men are paranoid. What does that mean? They fear almost. They fear everything. They fear, of course, now I know sometimes, Bishop the other day, you said, now you do not have to fear that somebody can go with your wife. That's a year we will overcome. So, we are looking at productive paranoia. So they keep on looking at their business and asking, what can go wrong? What can go wrong? What can go wrong? And then you start taking care of it. And I think when recently you are speaking to what can go wrong. The things you have mentioned are also the things that can go wrong. And so they have no comfort. They have no arrival. They do not suffer from what we call the arrival syndrome. They are always scanning the environment to find what do we need to do to take care of what can go wrong. And then of course finally is that they analyze what has been working and what has worked. And that is what informs their decisions going forward. I don't know how many of us listened to the interview that was done by the former Prime Minister of Singapore. And somebody asked what is the secret of Singapore. And he said 3 things. M, P, H. M, P, H. He said the M stands for meritocracy. He said we give the right people the right job and we allow them to execute. We do not reward mediocrity. We believe that if you have the right people in the bus, they will deliver. So they say meritocracy. P is what now I talk about pragmatism. Pragmatism is the other one for empirical creativity. Pragmatism says we ask what is working and what is not working. And if it is not working, we do not insist. We accept it is not working. We keep doing what is working and we stop doing that which is not working. And he gave the analogy of a cat and he said, for us, it doesn't matter whether the cat is black or white. The mice, that's a good cat. Pragmatism is identifying what is it that works for your organization. I don't know whether you are aware that sometimes organizations keep on doing that which doesn't work. And they keep on wondering why they're not getting the right results. So in this context, we are saying we get to a point where now the leaders make decisions based on the evidence that even their numbers are giving. If, for example, you look at the evidence and the evidence tells you that you have a problem with the manner in which you are giving credit because your NPL is growing, that is the fact based on your numbers, then it means that there is something you either start doing or stop doing based on that. And I arrived at this conclusion that leaders grow and they grow the institution. I know you have heard of this gentleman called John C. Maxwell, and he has written a very good book, The 21 Inevitable Roles of Leadership. The role number 1, he calls it the role of the lead. And he says, how much space for growth do you have? Now, if you look at this gentleman, do you think he can stand straight? Can he stand straight? He has a very small gap to Yakuchezea. Now, if this was an organization, this gentleman was the organization, and the lead, this container is the leadership, then it means that this institution will never realize its true potential. So you keep on growing the leaders so that when they grow, they take the institution to the next level. And then, of course, the third aspect of the discussion is about sustainability. And I'm sure when you look at these institutions represented here, you agree with me that also sustainability is some hard work, isn't it? Sustainability is some hard work. I don't know who owned this Nokia that I printed at any one time. You do, you did. So when you look back, you feel like that those days you are more or less a dynasty. Yeah, those days. And it was a very good thing to have, very good. And I'm sure it was very difficult to imagine that it would disappear. I keep asking myself, because these organizations had good rules. institution. Think about conduct. What were the boardrooms of these organizations discussing? By then, do you think they had enough information to tell them that something, you are losing it in the market? They had, isn't it? Those who do analysis, they say that the marketers kept on coming and saying, you know, you people, we have a problem. When we look at our numbers, for example, I'll share with you the numbers that they used to get. They used to get that the market is growing larger because the population was growing. Their numbers could be remaining, but their market share was not growing. Now, they also used to get data saying, when we look at the profile of our customers, these are the aging customers. The young cats are not buying our products anymore. And so they got stuck. Now I want to ask you to engage your neighbor and find out from your neighbor, why is it difficult for leaders to change when the time for change has come? Just engage your neighbor. Why is it difficult for leaders to change when everything is showing that the time for change has come?
They are not resilient enough.
Anza kuona ni kama ni bana lakini iko katikati.
Nataka hiyo bana, nataka video ikae hapa. Lakini mtu ana. Sasa nasema
kuna ile space nyingine. Ndio kusikuwa na ukuta, tutaweka wano straight.
What responses are you getting? What responses are you getting? Time for change. You can see everything is telling you. The empirical evidence has it that there is need for change. But it becomes very difficult to accept, especially change. So let me hear. The fear of the unknown, which is the first reaction when you are confronting change. But we have said you can build leaders so that they can be more adaptive. They can overcome their fear early. And especially when they are informed, they could even analyze what is this that they fear. The more information you have, the closer you get to feeling like you're making the right decision. So I agree, the fear of the unknown. Another thing that was said, ignorance. Yes. And now we speak bad English. Not knowing, isn't it? So I agree. So you agree, you appreciate that it's possible to build the ability of the leaders to adopt to a changing environment by just more training, more capacity building. Another thing, comfort zone. In fact, I think if you were to give them weight, the comfort zone can occupy more space. Now there is this metaphor of the frog. And they say, if you put a frog in a sufuria, uweke maji, alafu uwekele kwa katika kidogo, and the water starts to warm, the frog gets very happy. It starts feeling like this is where Eden is. You know, remember Eden? This is the world that God promised mankind and animals. So the frog, just relaxes, enjoying the temperatures. But when the temperatures rise to the boiling point, the frog is already too busy to jump out. Remember, it is a metaphor. So I don't know whether it is going to analyze the science here. When I sit I hope that will not be the question after I presented. But the thing is that, comfort can make you very lazy. Until when you are supposed to have acted, you don't act. And when the time for acting comes, It is too late. Many things have changed, and I believe you have seen that in the and many other organizations that you can think about. Tomorrow, when we'll be thinking about corporate governance, we'll be looking at institutions that again failed in their sustainability because of their governance. Literally, what we are referring to as the internal decay. I will be asking a very simple question. Is it possible to see an organization decaying internally from far? Now, Vincent gave us the technical tools to analyze the suitability of an organization. But would there be other things that when you see them in an organization, you appreciate that this organization is decaying? So we will not get into this conversation, but there are people who have taken time to look at what is it that destroys sustainability of an organization. Once more, Jim Collins wrote a book called Build Trust, and he said there are 5 things you will see. And when you see them, appreciate that this organization is losing it. And he said, number 1 is hubris. What is the meaning of the term hubris? Hubris. Yes. Hubris. 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 And this one, Google. Let us start from technology. Google. Google. Google the meaning of the term hubris. Hubris. Yeah? H-U-B-R-I-S.
Too much.
Pride, self-confidence,
Excessive pride.
talking big.
Talking big. Overconfidence, isn't it? Overconfidence. Now, Jim Collins wrote a book called How the Mighty Fall, but he was looking at organization. But there's another gentleman who wrote How the Mighty Fail, and these are individuals. They look like they all agree. Because, again, in the Bible says that pride comes before. How do you check your organization to see whether the spirit of hubris is setting in? Then like I said, you possibly even see it even when you look at your training calendar. You will understand organizations that are feeling like now we have known it all. We don't need to be trained, for example, by corporate consultants. We know it. We don't need to attend training in KETSA. We know it. Now those are signs of pride setting in. I have not been in this industry for longer than you. Maybe a number of months. I have been in the industry long enough to have studied a number of organizations. I learned a lot from organizations that fail. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I have seen from these organizations that fail, they had stopped doing the things that other people do. One of the things that they had stopped doing is being trained. And if they want to be trained by the casino, they could even bring an American. So we have listened to all the trainers, the rock ones. How to memorize it? International. But there are fundamentals that cement your business. And never run away from those. It is true that there are things you have done, but those who are sufficient to carry you today. If they take you home, they can possibly take you tomorrow. But there is something that Vincent will tell you about the product of a terror. That is a new development. Even look at some of the times when you get attacks. You get attacks for things that can be preempted at a very basic level. Number 2, he said is what he called indisciplined expansion, the quest for more. Sometimes this does not come necessarily from us. It could come from the shareholders pushing for more, demanding more, and sometimes forcing you to go to areas where you have not built capacity, areas where you have not built land, where they expose you to your areas of your ignorance. Again, you see it manifest in many ways. And you could analyze areas where you had an expansion that was not very visible by just looking at the outcome and the performance and what lessons do you do. And then, of course, we moved on and said that thing they do, they succumb to the denial. And they insist that they still know what they are doing, even when evidence is speaking otherwise. And by the time they get to the stage where they accept grasping for salvation, sometimes it becomes very difficult. This may not be all. This may not be all. Sustainability is deliberate. I have brought this 52% of the Fortune 500 firms since 2000 are gone. They are gone. So allow me to jump this, but I am almost coming home by getting to heaven. So I want us to take it. But these are some of the things that you see as the leadership continues to grow. This is how it manifests. High level of ownership and responsibility, high adaptability, present in difficulties, and we'll be asking this question tomorrow. Even this particular time when there is need for leadership to be present, are we being heard? Or have we taken cover? Does the situation look so big that nobody wants to speak about it? And Bishop, I am referring to it as the Peter syndrome. It may not be, but you remember the story of Peter? He promised Jesus, whatever comes may, I'll start with him. Maybe nitakufa na wewe. Then Jesus is taken for crucifixion. Agar passes there, an ordinary guy, anasema kwa hivyo hata huyu namjua. Walikuwa na yeye. Anasema no, me hata simjui. So when you can say anything when things are okay, but times comes when the true spirit is tested. This is where I want to finish. I want to stop here. If there will be more time to pick this discussion even tomorrow. And I want to ask you, do you understand the passage of your business? Do you understand the passage of your business? Irrespective of what the books are saying, for example, would you know when your business is doing well and when it is not doing well? Do you know the passage of your business? And just to bring it home, let me give you a story that was given by a veteran doctor. He said after attending to a patient with a trainee doctor, he left now the trainee to take care of the patient. Before he was gone far, the trainee called him and he said that our patient is losing it. He is actually dying. And he was almost panicking. So he came back. I thought I had just seen the patient a few minutes ago, and he was doing well. So what exactly has changed? So he came back, and he found that the machine was now placing at the alarm. So another machine was in a machine, and that is how the machine was behaving. But before he even went to lead the machine, he went to the feet of the patient, akamshika. You know the power of the feet? That is the concentration of the nerves area. And he felt like the patient was up. So then he came to the wrist. You also know the power of the wrist, isn't it? And he checked and felt like the patient was okay. And the veteran doctor asked the trainee doctor, did you check on the patient before calling me back? And he said, I did, but the machine is telling us that the patient is dying. So he went looking at the machine, and it happens that one of the wires connecting the machine had disconnected. So it is the machine that was faulty. The patient is okay. Now I want you to speak to your neighbor for a minute. Ask him or her whether they understand the pass rate of the business. It doesn't matter by the what the external auditor said, isn't it? What would be this thing that when you test it, it tells you there's a problem. There's a problem. There's a problem. What is the pass rate of your business? What is the pass rate? My chairman, what is the pass rate of your business? When I hear 2%, we go 14. What is the pass rate of your business? How do you know that your business is arriving, irrespective of what the machines are saying? And how do you know that the machines, by the way, are not communicating the true position of your business? Would your business breed for 7 years without you knowing? Even if the machines are telling you that the business is not breeding. Pass rate of your business. From this row, give me one pass rate that you use to check whether your business is breathing normally or whether the breathing is being excited. Director Zero, you look like you want to say something. The liquidity. That it doesn't matter what the ratios are saying. If the ratios tells you that you have 20% liquidity revenue, and you cannot process, you cannot give member services, you are borrowing when everything is telling you that you have liquidity, then you need to ask, why is this tool not showing me the evidence I feel about my business? And you can keep it as one of the key highlights. That part will be the liquidity. If you are breathing, you will know, even if anything different is being said. We are here to grow, build the leaders, so that they can even understand the pass rate of their business for building resilience, growth, and sustainability. I beg to post there so that we can take our help.